I ran my first half marathon in, I believe, 2016, and I have a 100 miler in about a week now. And so watching the growth over that time period and being even more consistent over the last 5, 6 years, I have obviously learned a lot. And as I reflect back, there are some big mistakes that I want to address that maybe you can avoid or get ahead of faster. And at the end of the day, I'm healthy. I don't have any crazy injuries that are going to affect me for the rest of my life. And I've had what I think is a lot of success in running. And so it's not crazy mistakes, but I do feel like I could be faster, more fit, and better at running if I would have avoided or done some of these things I'm about to talk about. And I have one specifically for trail. So if you're getting into trail running, I think the second tip is valuable for those trying to get better at running on trails. So the first thing I want to address is not doing consistent speed work. And I think a lot of the running community knows about base work or zone 2 running. And if you don't know what that is, basically the idea is when you run at a lower heart rate or your zone 2 heart rate, which everyone's is different, so you have to calculate or Google how to calculate my heart rate zones. I sent a workout to someone to do it for me because I couldn't figure out what which was the best way to calculate it. So figure out what your heart rate zones are is the first thing. But when you do zone 1, zone 2, you build a base, and zone 4 and zone 5 is more of speed work that you can stack on top of. And if you have a wider base, you can stack more fitness on top of it. And so when I first started getting into zone 2 running, I did 100% of my runs at zone 2. And I was following the Maffetone method, I think is how you say it, MAF for abbreviation. And that method talks about not doing anything outside of zone 2 for like 2 years or a year and a half, something like that. And so I really did focus on that, and I obviously saw progression. Like I started at like 14, 15-minute miles staying in my zone 2, and now I can do zone 2 running at sometimes 7:30s on a really good day. Most of the time it's around 8 to 9-minute miles. And so I thought that was cool to see the progress, but here's the thing that I wish I would have done is I wish I would have done at least one speed work session a week throughout that time, because I feel like I'd be a little bit faster. And even though it's great to build that wide base because now I can stack a lot of speed and volume on top of that, I do feel like I'd be slightly faster, or at least be more comfortable with the different types of speed workouts, because there's intervals and fartleks and 200 versus mile repeats and hill repeats. And so I wish I would have spent those first 2, 3 years doing at least one speed workout a week. And so my suggestion is, if you feel like running is really important to you and you want to set PRs and you want to be able to do this for a long time, I think yes, you should focus on zone 2, especially if you're new, but everyone should do, like, build a base with the running. But I also recommend that you just start doing some sort of speed work. And there's I should probably make a video on this. I'll note this, that I'm going to go over a bunch of different types of speed workouts that I've found and what I think they help with. But ultimately, I think I'd understand more about speed and how to run fast, and I would be faster if I would have been doing at least one speed workout a week. Now I do speed workouts regularly. I just think I could be a little further if I would have done that. The second tip and the second thing I've learned from is trail running. And so we just talked about zone 2. You have to run in your heart rate zone 2 to be able to build that base, and you'll get more efficient over time. I've been majority of my running's been on roads, and I've been starting to get into trail running, and my 100 miler is actually a trail run, which I did 2 years ago, but it's a weakness of mine because I haven't done a lot of training on trails. And so one thing I wish I would have done more of over the years, as I kind of trickled in trail runs here and there, is run up the hills. And I don't mean hard, but one of the things I was so concerned about, because I was so concerned about staying in zone 2, I would just basically walk every single hill, which I think is good, especially if you're getting used to ultras. But I wish I would have started running up them a little bit more, because I would have figured out how to do that efficiently. And I think if I would have still stayed in zone 2 by running and walking when my heart rate would peak into zone 3, and then running and doing it again, and walking when I was in zone 3, I think if I would have done that, I'd be faster on the uphills too, at a lower heart rate. Not necessarily speed, because I need to do more hill repeats for that type of thing, but I think if I would have just spent more time in zone 2 while running up hills, even if you could walk just as fast, I think there's benefit to learning how to run efficiently, and I just would have gotten used to it. I've really noticed this because about 2 weeks before my race, I really started to see my heart rate come down, and being able to run 11-minute miles, 10-minute miles uphill without my heart rate spiking too much. And I wish I would have seen that result earlier, and I think I would have if I would have started running up hills more often opposed to walking. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different opinions out there, but the things I was reading and listening to is when you get into ultras, just walk the uphills and run the flats and downhills, which I agree with for sure. I think I could have mixed in running up the hills a little bit. It didn't have to be every single hill, but I just walked pretty much every single hill for the first 4 years of my training, and I think I could have been faster and more efficient if I would have started running even at an easy pace uphill. So that's the second thing. I think running up hills at a low heart rate, I should have done that sooner, and hopefully you're doing that or can learn from that, especially if you're getting into trails, because I think I'd be so much faster, and this race I'm about to run, I'd do so much better at if I had been doing zone 2 training on the uphills by running, not just walking. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is more of a mindset thing, because any athlete or any runner or anyone who takes something super seriously knows that they're their worst critic and they can be rather intense. And I feel like one of the things that's taken away from me enjoying the process of running is focusing on volume instead of quality. I think this is a big thing for runners, where it's so important to do more to people, and it's definitely benefited me to know what it feels like to do 80-mile weeks or 100-mile weeks. But at the end of the day, I think I was maybe missing out on some potential gains because I was just slogging through runs. And again, it really does depend on your goals, because there's been phases in my running where I just want to grind really hard because I want to fix my mindset, or I want to do something difficult and be proud of it at the end. And so at one point I did a 212-mile week, which isn't like quality. It wasn't like a crazy, like I wasn't getting, like I was training, but it wasn't like optimal, if you will, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. But that was worth it because I did something incredibly difficult, and I get to be proud of myself when I look back on that, and it's benefited my mindset and my mental grit since then. My point is, though, like when I haven't had those crazy volume goals or volume weeks, or I'm not doing some insane challenge, I should have been appreciating my training more and being proud of every single run, even if it was like only 30 miles a week. And that's the thing. If you're doing 30 miles a week, that's still impressive, especially if you're focusing on quality. And so what I mean by that is every workout has its goals and its benefit. And so for me, if I'm doing zone 2 training on 3 or 4 runs a week and speed work on 1 or 2 training runs a week, or maybe a long run, I wish I would have been proud of the zone 2 runs, because I'm realizing they're just as valuable and impactful, maybe if not more, than speed work, because when you have good fitness, a good base in zone 2, you're healthier, you run faster at a lower heart rate, and then you can stack a ton of speed on top of that. And so I wouldn't necessarily change like my volume or the things I've done in the past, but I wish I would have been more appreciative of the lower volume weeks, or the 4-mile run, because 4 miles isn't 12 miles, so it's not as good, right? And that's just a mistake. I should have been proud of those, and I think mentally I would have been healthier. I'm now figuring that out more, so even that 4-mile run, I'm proud of, because I know that zone 2 running, or even if it's 1 mile of speed work on that 4-mile run, is beneficial and something to be proud of. So my main point is focusing on the quality and not necessarily the volume. But even if you have crazy volume, be proud of the slow runs, be proud of the short runs. Or if you're only doing 20 miles a week, which is still better than 10 miles a week, which is still better than 0 miles a week, excuse me, I think it's just important to be proud and realize that, especially if you're going with every run with some sort of intention, it's beneficial. Even if that intention is just to have a good time and enjoy it and not worry about heart rate, that's cool too. Like that could be a good intention for me. A lot of it's like building a base or speed work or maybe a long run, right? And I should be proud of each one of those, because each one of those adds some sort of different benefit and training stimulus. So anyways, I'm rambling about this, but I just thought about it a lot, that I wish one of the mistakes I've made is being mad about slower or less runs or a lower volume week or only running 1 mile repeat opposed to 2 mile repeats. And I think we should just be grateful and proud of what our bodies can do and understand that each one of those, even if it isn't your craziest, fastest run ever or biggest volume week ever, it's still something to be proud of. So if you like running, that's what this channel is about. I'm just trying to help people learn from my mistakes, stay healthy, avoid injuries, set PRs if they can, and overall just keep loving and enjoying running. So if you like that stuff, consider subscribing, and if not, I still hope you got something out of this video, and I hope I get to see you in another video sometime soon. Peace.